What is ego? Ego is a strange companion. It walks with us quietly, protects us fiercely, and often destroys us silently. Most people think ego is confidence. Others think it is pride. Some confuse it with self-respect. But ego is none of these alone. Ego is the inner voice that whispers, "I must not lose." Even when losing would save love, peace, and truth. This is the story of ego, not as a definition, but as a lived experience. The man who never apologized. Daniel was known as a strong man. Strong opinions. Strong personality. Strong presence. People admired him for his confidence. At work, he was decisive. At home, he was firm. In arguments, he was unbeatable, not because he was always right, but because he never backed down. Daniel believed something deeply. If I apologize, I become small. To him, apologizing felt like surrender. Like weakness. Like losing control. And so, he never did. Ego feels like protection. Psychology tells us that ego exists to protect our identity. It shields us from shame, fear, and rejection. Without ego, humans would feel lost. In Daniel's case, ego protected him from an old wound. As a child, he had been ignored. His opinions were dismissed. His mistakes were mocked. Somewhere along the way, he learned a lesson that shaped his life. If I bend, I will break. So he became rigid. He became proud. He became emotionally distant. Ego became his armor. When ego enters relationships. Daniel married Emma, a woman full of warmth and emotional intelligence. She believed in communication. She believed in repair. She believed that love grows through humility. At first, Daniel's strength impressed her. But slowly, strength turned into silence. Small misunderstandings became cold days. Cold days became emotional distance. Emma would speak, Daniel would defend. Emma would explain, Daniel would justify. Not once did he say, "I might be wrong." Not once did he say, "I hurt you." Ego doesn't shout. It closes doors quietly. The science behind ego. Neuroscience shows that when ego is threatened, the brain reacts as if facing danger. The amygdala, our fear center, activates. Logic shuts down. Defensiveness rises. That's why ego makes people argue harder instead of listening. That's why ego prefers being right over being kind. That's why ego turns conversations into battles. Ego convinces us that admitting a mistake equals losing value. But this belief is false. Research consistently shows that people who can admit mistakes are perceived as more trustworthy, not weaker. Ego lies to survive. The cost of ego. One evening, after another argument, Emma said something Daniel didn't expect. "I don't feel safe sharing my feelings with you anymore." That sentence hurt more than any accusation. Daniel wanted to respond. To defend himself. To explain his intentions. But something stopped him. For the first time, he felt the cost of his ego, not as an idea, but as loneliness. Ego had protected him from apology. But it had also robbed him of connection. Ego versus self-respect. Here is an important truth. Self-respect says, I have value, even when I am wrong. Ego says, I must never be wrong to have value. Self-respect is flexible. Ego is rigid. Self-respect allows growth. Ego resists change. Daniel had confused ego with dignity. In reality, dignity grows when ego softens. The moment of realization. Weeks later, Emma moved out temporarily. The house was quiet. No arguments. No tension. No noise. Just silence. Daniel thought peace would feel good. Instead, it felt empty. One night, he replayed old conversations in his mind, not to prove he was right, but to understand what he had lost. For the first time, he asked a dangerous question. What if my ego has been wrong all along? That question cracked something open. Letting ego step back. Letting go of ego doesn't mean losing yourself. It means stopping ego from driving your life. Daniel began therapy. Not because he was broken, but because he was tired of being alone while being right. He learned something powerful. Ego is not the enemy. Uncontrolled ego is. Healthy ego gives confidence. Toxic ego demands dominance. The first apology. When Daniel finally met Emma again, he didn't prepare arguments. He prepared honesty. He said only one sentence. I see now how my need to be right made you feel unseen. I'm sorry. No explanations. No defenses. No, but. Just responsibility. That apology didn't fix everything instantly. But it opened a door ego had kept locked. What ego really is. Ego is the story we tell ourselves about who we are. When that story becomes fragile, ego becomes loud. When that story is secure, ego becomes quiet. Strong people don't need ego to shout for them. They let their actions speak. The lesson. Ego is not evil. But it is dangerous when it controls us. It can protect us from pain, but also prevent healing. It can give confidence, but also destroy intimacy. It can make us feel powerful, but leave us alone. The most powerful shift a human can make is this. Choosing growth over being right. Final reflection. If you are reading this and thinking of someone else, pause. Ego hides best when we point outward. Ask yourself instead. When was the last time I apologized sincerely? Do I listen to understand, or to respond? Do I value connection more than control? Ego doesn't disappear overnight. But awareness weakens its grip. And humility doesn't make you small. It makes you free.